Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Ever notice how the commie bastards take something from history, distort it or lie about it, manufacture some altered version of it, create a new vocabulary about it, fabricate an entire narrative about it, produce a list of erroneous and incomplete talking points about it, push that through the media and educational institutions, and when it's all said and done, they have rewritten history. They're the most creative human beings in history. You got to give them that. Of course, the inquiring mind would, well, inquire, what's the point of all that? And the answer to that question is what lays bare the real intention of the commies, also known as the left, socialists, and of the Democrats, all the same thing. It's not that they are so much anti-American, although certainly that's true. They are anti-Catholic, anti-God. Heck, Marx even said so when he called religion the opium of the people. While he would have, in theory anyway, extended his definition of religion to all religions, remember that his experience of religion, what he saw every day, was Christianity. It is that which revolted him. Pretty sure he wasn't really concerned with pygmy tribes worshiping trees in some far-off forest somewhere. The religion he saw as a holdback to the creation of his utopia was Christianity, shorthand for Catholicism. It was and remains the case that Catholicism built Western civilization, a political and social structure predicated on the dignity of man owing to the single fact that he is made in the image and likeness of God. That is what the commies hate. That is the North Star of Western civilization. And while, yes, there have been many individual examples of leaders and followers betraying that compass point through the ages, it remains the case that human dignity is the starting point for all of this, a dignity conferred by God. Get rid of God, you get rid of the dignity, which is what the World Economic Forum, for example, is all about. And remember the significance of that dignity. So overwhelming that it caused many of the angels to fall. So enraged were they that a creature made of clay would surpass them in majesty, that their pride could not assimilate that, so they rebelled. Likewise, human dignity so far surpasses the angels that the eternal Logos took on our nature to redeem and restore it. Those theological truths are the starting points of Catholicism, and all of Western civilization is predicated on them. Culture, coming from the word cult, is built on religious principles. Always has been for all of history, no matter what empire or civilization you encounter or study, it's always the case. Which brings us to a theme which drives the commies nuts in their attempt to subvert the Christian order. All civilizations cannot be equal, have the same worth, because they have different starting points based on their guiding principles, their North Stars. Only Catholic civilization can claim to be superior, and that's because it is. That's why the church set out to bring the gospel to different lands and civilizations, because it is not just superior, but primary. It's true that the church's missionaries rode along on the coattails of European powers whose greater interests were likely political and financial, but that does not negate or wipe away the intentions of the actual missionaries themselves and the church. This dual reality is what gets lumped together in the communist analysis and rewrite of history. That's why colonization has emerged as a dirty word in the Marxist lexicon. After all, how dare one civilization think it is superior to another, bypassing the screamingly obvious point that they believe their civilization is superior, which is why they're attempting to overthrow Catholic civilization. So, laying aside the clear hypocrisy, the question has been asked and answered, is one civilization superior to another? Yes, and not just yes, but glaringly so. Despite the Marxist talking points of historical revision, when Europeans came to the Western Hemisphere, they found other civilizations built on brutality, child sacrifice, slavery, ritualized murder, people's hearts torn out of them while they were still alive. But of course, none of that ever gets presented by the commies. They fancy the presentation that these empires were sweet little people sitting around charting the stars and quietly inhabiting the land, planting corn. Creating a victim class goes back very far with the commies, because victims are victims, after all, because of their oppressors. So the good guy, bad guy image is instantly created, and guess who the bad guys are? European powers, who also happened to have Catholic missionaries in tow. While it's true that there were various atrocities and so forth committed by the governmental powers, we never see the commies admitting that every civilization or empire engaged in the same types of tactics. That said, since the European colonial powers had been tempered by Christianity, they were nowhere near as brutal and subjugating as previous empires of history. They did not, for example, wipe the people from the face of the earth. They allowed the church to baptize them. And there is, in the sticking point here for the commies, this thing, the one that they are loath to actually admit. They don't really care, the commies, about the idea of military conquest or the subjugation of one civilization by another. All you need to do to prove that is just look at Joseph Stalin or Mao Zedong to see it. When commies are the oppressors, well, it's just the natural flow of history taking its course. They will, of course, pretend that this is the real issue, but it's not. Communism understands completely, even more so than most Christians, that their ultimate enemy is religion, and not just religion in some general sense, but Catholicism in particular. They get it, but many of our people don't. So they set up a facade that it is the colonial powers, meaning the monarchies, that are the enemy, when the reality is it was and is the spread of the gospel, based on that pesky little God-given dignity of man that's the real bee in their bonnet. When Catholic missionaries came ashore, within hours the cross was planted in the earth as soon as they stepped off the ship, and Mass was offered. And most importantly, the spiritual welfare of the native peoples was almost immediately begun being tended to. Pretty sure that's not what Caesar did, or Stalin, or Chairman Mao. They just killed and created slave populations. Colonization in the lexicon of communism secretly refers to the evangelization of the nations, not the conquest of one empire by another. That last part is just the lie to smuggle in their atheism and make it have an air of respectability. Point to always keep in mind, any political or cultural system which denies the dignity of man based on being made in the image and likeness of God is antithetical to the faith and must be confronted and defeated. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.